Hello, everybody. My name is Colter Scott. This is my EDL 850 Module 4 assignment, Religion in Schools. This module, I am a principal of a school, and I've been invited to a special school board meeting. School board meeting, I've been invited by a couple of the board members to bring my knowledge in on religion in schools, on things that I have studied, and here we go. I'm really using this tool as an opportunity to lay out some of the recent things that the government and things that have happened in court cases that have involved education and how it all goes along with religion and the can and cannots that we can have within our schools. Really being informative and just gaining some more knowledge on this subject. First off, the First Amendment Establishment Clause and the Free Exercise Clause. This is out there as a federal government tool and what they can and cannot do. It says the Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Now, within our educational system, the Elementary and Secondary Act of 1965, there's a section 8524, has two subsections. A, the Secretary is required to provide guidance to the state, local, and public educational agencies on constitutionally protected prayer in public elementary and secondary schools. Then B, requires that the LEA must certify in writing to its SEA that it has no policy that prevents or otherwise denies participation in constitutionally protected prayer in the schools. And this is from the Department of Education. Now, enforcement of this section, the Secretary of State is authorized and directed to effectively compliance with this section by issuing a securing compliance with rules or orders with respect to the LEA that fails to certify or if found that a certified is in bad faith. That no policy of the LEA prevents and otherwise denies participation in constitutionally protected prayer in public education. Schools also receive funding under the ESEA for this as well. So if they do not turn in the paperwork, or if there is a complaint filed, or if there is something that happens that is deemed that they are not following what they have signed or have not signed, then the government can refuse funds to the school districts until that good faith that document has been signed. The General Education Provisions Act talks through that a little bit about authorizes the Secretary to bring enforcement actions against recipients of federal education funds that are not in compliance with the law. Such measures include withholding funds until the recipient comes into compliance. Next, we're going to talk about a little bit about the praying in school and school activities. Some of the Supreme Court principles are distinguishing impermissible government religious speech from constitutionally protected private religious speech. So, back again to the very first slide of, they're not allowed to have any say or have any guidelines behind it, but then where they have to come into a school where it has to be protected, but also has to be allowed. Here are some principles that they lay out on support staff, teachers, and public school officials. When they're acting in their official capacity, we may not lead in classes in prayer. We cannot do devotionals, readings from the Bible, other religious activities. School officials use their authority to attempt to persuade or compel students to go in a certain direction or make them pray. A situation in this could be before a game, a coach brings everybody together and has everybody pray together and is forcing a student or an athlete to comply with that and do it with them. always have to have an option out. Make sure the students know that they do not have to participate in that situation. Student prayers. This is during instructional time or non-instructional time. During the non-instructional time, students are allowed to pray, engage, when not involved in school activities or instruction. They're also under the same rules as any designed to prevent any material distribution of the educational program. So if you have a club that is wanting to send things out, they're allowed to do that. Same with them, same with just individuals. I know a lot of places have guidelines on what they can and cannot hand out. Just has to be pre-approved by administration a lot of times. But yet again, making sure that it still doesn't cover up somebody's rights. They may may read out of their Bible, Torahs, Qurans, or other scriptures that they so choose. During instructional times, this can be where it gets a little bit iffy, but also as long as it's handled in the right situation, can also be very successful. Saying because there's some sort of religious regions where they have to pray at a certain time or based off of what they do for the religious, a ceremony or something like that. Schools do have discretion to dismiss a student to off-premises religious instruction or may excuse from class to remove a significant burden on their religious exercise where doing so will not impose burdens on other students. This is all also has to be, it cannot be judgmental. It all has to be within a scope of things that is deemed safe, and making sure that the students' rights over praying and over the religious acts do not come into play based off of somebody's opinion or somebody doesn't agree with it. It all just needs to be make sure that it's all above ground. Organized groups and activities, touched about this a little bit in a couple slides ago. Students are able to create or organize prayer groups or religious clubs. They are permitted to organize other non-curricular student activity groups, must be given the same access to the facilities for assembling. This is allowed that if you let chess club, if you let even a political club of sort of things, they have to be able to have the same rights as any other club, just like a sports team, things like that. They need to have that not based off of their religion or based off of what they believe in, that they still have to be able to do what they want to do. Groups are also allowed to advertise or announce their meetings, make sure as long as it's done in a peaceful way, and that just like everybody else does, it goes to the proper channels to be handed out. Teachers, administration, and other school employees on prayer. When on duty and representing the state, teachers or school employees are prohibited under that First Amendment in encouraging or discouraging prayer. Now, when a teacher is not on duty, they may take a part in religious activities. They even are, even though they're on duty, but may not be, but it may still be part of their workday. When it is permissible, they are allowed to pray. This could be during lunch. This could be maybe before or right after school, maybe during a little bit of a break of sorts. But as long as they are maybe actively removing themselves from around students or in an area where they are on their own or a student may be able to leave the premises, that is okay. Teachers can also create their own groups with other staff members and engage in religious discussion and activities. Yet again, making sure it is still in a safe environment that is not impeding their work or as they are not on duty at that time. They may participate in their personal capacities in private sponsored activities or similar events. So a student has a graduation party, suggested a baccalaureate sponsored event that is in a religious ceremony that as long as they're not acting as a teacher, they are allowed to be a part of that event. What is allowed? Teaching about religion. Public schools have to constantly draw a distinction between religious activities, worship, and Bible reading, and then about teaching about religion. You can teach about religion. It can come up in some things, but it cannot be swayed one way or another on opinions or how things or how people need to be in or know about a certain religion. It has to be an equal for all. Teaching about religion. These are accepted examples about teaching religion. Philosophical questions concerning religion. We can have a class on history of religion, comparative religion. We can study the Bible as literature. That is appropriate. The role of religion in the history of the United States or other countries. And then about the influences religion has had on art, music, literature, and other studies. These are all accepted ways that we can still talk about religion with students, but making sure it's as an educational sense and that we are involving as much as possible of everything and not swaying students in a certain direction or favoring something. Excuse me. Holiday programs, something that obviously that comes up every year. That can be a touchy subject for a lot of students, staff, and families. Schools are still allowed to have holiday parties or programs. They must be sensitive to students of other religious beliefs that may not believe in a certain holiday that may be coming up or that is around that time of year. Students may feel uncomfortable and feel like they have to participate because all of their peers are, because the teacher says we have to for a grade, things like that. That is not allowed. We cannot make things in this capacity that way. No student should be forced to sing or play music that offends their religious sensibilities. Schools must allow the option not to participate. And this also, add to this, is not to participate without any force of discipline. So that could be a grade, that could be leaving them out on purpose of other things because they didn't participate in this. You cannot do that. The Pledge of Allegiance. A lot of elementary schools still do the Pledge of Allegiance every morning. This has been litigated many times because of the words "under God" in the middle of the Pledge of Allegiance. There times have been people that say that since they do not believe in God, that they should not have to be able to say the Pledge of Allegiance and that it should be taken down, or that their child should not have to even say it every morning. But the Ninth Circuit of Court of Appeals in 2010 revised the district court's decision, ruling that reciting of the pledge did not constitute an establishment of religion. Still, they allow families to decide that they don't want to say it, they don't have to, but that it is still being allowed to be done. Rights. I wanted to go through a little bit of rights of each group. Some of this is a little bit of a repeat of before, but really important to have, and how the rights of students, teachers, and families have within the subject. Students' rights. Students acting on their own have the same rights to engage in religious activity and discussion as they do to engage in comparable secular activities. Students may offer prayer or blessing before meals in school or assemblies on school grounds for religious purposes at the same extent as other students wish they would. Still, yet again, cannot force upon others in what they believe in. Can talk about what's going on. That goes right into the next one. May not engage in religious harassment of others, compel other students to participate in their religious expression. And schools may control aggressive and unwanted acts. So they can step in if they feel something is going out of hand, but still a sticky slope at some times. Schools may neither favor or disfavor students or groups on the bias of the religious identities. Parents have rights too, of course. These are their kids. They have educational rights. up till a certain age. So, as in everything, the government says that, parents don't have to put up with public schools if they really don't want to. The right to enroll their children in private schools, whether the private schools are religious or secular, that is up to them. They can do that at any point in time that they would like to. That is all completely up to them. They can also do this without any explanation. And that's what these opting out of classes, they can opt out of classes for many different ways. For this subject, it could be the issues of sexuality or reproduction, religious or moral concerns. And yet again, they don't have to tell you why. If they would like to opt out, they can. And you really can't, we can't pressure them into explaining why. Teachers and administration rights. When off duty again, school employees are free to engage in worship and other lawful faith-based activities. They're able to do this at their own capacity. Again, when they're on the job, they can as well, but as long as it is in a safe environment where they're not forcing upon, it's kind of making sure that they are out of sight, out of mind a little bit, but able to do their own thing. We just cannot have students around when we do it to impose our beliefs or make it seem like our beliefs are being imposed by somebody that may be walking by. In general, the courts have ruled that public schools have substantial discretion to regulate the religious expression of teachers during instructional hours, especially when students are required to present. The courts have also ruled, however, that attempts by schools to extend the control into non-instructional hours constitute an overly broad intrusion on the teacher's religious freedom. I'd like to thank the board members that invited me here today to kind of help gain some more knowledge on this subject of religion, and hope that this has helped with maybe some of the information that we have in some of our policies, things that we may look into our schools, something that may need to be better enhanced, and have a little bit more of a watchful eye on. Thank you. Excuse me. Next, I have my standard statements. It is the number 6.3, which is operations and management of how to implement laws, rights, policies, and regulations. Everything we do is to promote adult success and the well-being of our students as well. I thought this standard correlation, I use this role play. I was kind of as an informative to educate the school board and superintendent religion by presenting in a more informative way. It brought in more of an ethical and the equity issue with since the superintendent did not know that I had asked to come in to maybe look at some of the board policies. Did not want to think that I was stepping on anybody's toes, and just wanted to inform everybody about the overall, so when they took a look at stuff, they'd feel more inviting on how to maybe change things. I communicated with them the importance of letting the students be able to show their religious beliefs in a way that is safe and respectful to everyone, and also to help the laws, regulations, procedures, and policies that connect with our school, that connect. We also need to be able to have somebody that maybe helps guides us through this environment, and making sure that we have representatives within our own building that know the government guidelines of all of this and help implement this throughout. Relevant. This assignment was very important to my learning and now and in the future. Religion is in our personal life can be very tricky when it is in education. We have 100 to 1,000 kids in the same place at the same time, and they all have their own religion beliefs, things that make them, and can make things really interesting. After reading through these two articles of religion in schools, it gave me a greater knowledge on how things have come about. With this knowledge, we can help students and our staff be more inclusive and provide a safer place for everyone to learn to be themselves. My reflection of this, working on this assignment, I was a bit confused on really how to approach the subject and how to really present it to the board superintendent, knowing that I was not there to suggest change in the policies and not knowing that the policies currently not knowing what the current policies are. I found this difficult. Also, new to the district, didn't want to step on my superintendent's toes and how he may be running the district. After completing this module, I was able to see things that day to day that may need to be discussed within my own building. Really has made me think about how I would need to approach these issues in my building. It has a ton of things and seems to be very nitpicky at times. It does make me worried a little bit about something that is always going to be on this topic going on, maybe on purpose or maybe not. Thank you guys for watching, and here are my references.